Congratulations to the WNBA. Your ratings are going to drop by 55 to 60% once again. I believe the WNBA have successfully broken Caitlin Clark, and it's been an awful thing. Caitlin Clark is officially ruled out for tonight with a groin injury, and she will not play tonight.
Something weird just happened. Caitlin Clark goes down, and within minutes, WNBA ratings drop harder than a phone with butterfingers. Coincidence? Or is the entire league held together by one rookie and a box of duct tape? ESPN's sweating, Kathy Engelbert's rewriting press releases, and somewhere in a dark room, a marketing team is Googling how to clone Caitlin legally? Buckle up, because if this spiral keeps spiraling, the WNBA might be calling high schoolers next. Let's unravel this mess.
Now, we know last night the Indiana Fever faced off against Paige Bueckers and the Dallas Wings. Now, a lot of people is criticizing the WNBA referees yet again after another matchup because they felt as if Paige Bueckers actually had a special whistle. Now, I spoke about this last night, man, and people was definitely showing mixed reviews about it. But with all that being said, dog, we look like WNBA Commissioner Kathy has opened up about this situation a little bit and spoken about it. Now, I've been on Kathy Heine, bro, for a while now, going back to last year, addressing these WNBA referees. I've been one of the first content creators to break it all down, even letting you know how they pick them, how they find them, how much money they make. They only make like $100,000 a year, bro.
The moment Caitlin Clark hit the floor, clutching her ankle, you could almost hear the collective gasp echoing louder than a playoff buzzer. Not from the Indiana bench, not from the fans, but from WNBA executives whose spreadsheets just burst into flames. Ticket sales flatlined, viewership graphs started doing somersaults, and somewhere in Connecticut, a very nervous TV producer started stress-eating an entire tray of stadium nachos.
Now, I know a lot of us were expecting some sort of dip since Caitlin Clark has been out with injury, but I don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA to be down. And this tweet from Christine Brennan really stuck out to me. She said one player gets injured and more than half the TV audience for the entire league disappears. Has any other athlete ever had that kind of impact on a sport? Golf without Tiger definitely dropped precipitously on occasion, but not like this. A truly remarkable sports story continued.
Because let's be honest, without Caitlin, the WNBA isn't just limping, it's dragging itself across the court with a torn ACL and no ice packs in sight. The collapse wasn't even subtle, it was instant. The second she was ruled questionable, arenas that were once roaring became eerily quiet, like you couldn't hear a pin drop. Quiet. Except the only pins dropping were WNBA, hopes, and ESPN ad deals. They tried to play it cool, sure. The league is more than one player, they chirped.
Wait a minute. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I thought the mainstream media told me that AJ Wilson was a huge star. Isn't that the prevailing narrative throughout the media? They want to share the credit. They claim Angel Reese and AJ Wilson are the reason that people are watching pretend basketball. Now, sure, they give some credit to Caitlin Clark, but the media prefers to share the credit.
But that's like saying the Titanic was more than just a boat. Technically true, but look how that ended. You could practically see the camera crews packing up their tripods and whispering, "So? We heading back to Iowa?" Because Caitlin isn't just a rookie, she's the electricity, the main character, the one-woman stimulus package for a league that's been trying to make fetch happen for 25 years.
Caitlin Clark is okay. I want to know when this injury even happened, bro, because let's be serious here. She has the quad injury. Mind you, Caitlin Clark hadn't missed a game since she was like 19 years old, since she was like 18 in college or something. Now she has a groin injury. We've never seen Caitlin Clark play as bad as she played the last 3 games. Let's just be serious here. She's like 1 for 20-something on threes in the last 3. We've never seen her shoot the ball this way. I'll say that. Has she been hurt and playing through this? Did this happen? Because you have people out there saying this injury happened when Stephanie White decided to sub her back in the last 8 seconds of the game versus the Seattle Storm when we was winning.
Without her, it's not even crickets. It's just empty seats, echoing buzzers and vibes. Bad ones. Attendance? Tanking. Like, we've got extra seats, please take 1, take 5 levels of tanking. Stadiums that were sold out last week suddenly look like they're hosting silent meditation retreats. Entire rows left untouched, like WNBA merchandise on clearance. Even the ushers started asking existential questions. Do I still matter if no one comes through this gate? Someone whispered at halftime. And ratings? Oh boy. Nielsen probably had to call IT to fix whatever glitch caused the numbers to fall off a cliff. Spoiler, it wasn't a glitch. The viewers simply left. Vanished. Like their queen just exited stage left and took the plot with her. It's not shade, it's reality. When Caitlyn's in the game, everything is gold-plated. The lights seem brighter, the passes are crisper, the tension is thicker. People who haven't watched a basketball game since Space Jam are suddenly arguing over pick-and-roll strategy and debating plus-minus stats like it's fantasy football draft season. But when she's out, the conversation dries up faster than a post-game locker room towel.
News is alarming for the league, and it's alarming for the league because this is such a crucial year for the WNBA. At the end of this season, the WNBA will go into CBA negotiations. If negotiations go well, then every single player in the WNBA has a much better chance of making so much more in their next contract. And if you guys were watching my videos during the off season, I was so much more optimistic going into this year because we had so much drama and the media, I felt like, mishandled so many things with the WNBA last season, and specifically with Caitlin Clark and her fan base. And that's one thing when you start thinking about how many people stopped watching when Caitlin Clark got injured. A lot of people stopped watching because they are...
Sponsors notice. Broadcasters notice. Grandma from Idaho who finally figured out how to stream a Fever game definitely notices. Because no matter how many times the league pushes the "we have so many great players" narrative, it turns out fans just aren't into speed dating with the rest of the roster. They came for Caitlyn. They stay for Caitlyn. And when Caitlyn's gone, they ghost harder than an ex after Valentine's Day. The funny part? Everyone knew this. Deep down, the league knew. The players knew. Heck, the person selling pretzels in Section 1012 definitely knew. That's why the WNBA put Clark on national TV more times in 2 months than it did for half its veterans in a decade. They're not subtle. This is the business version of strapping a rocket to a turtle and yelling FI. And you know what? It worked until she went down. Suddenly, all those emergency marketing meetings started sounding less like strategy and more like a group therapy session. Because now they're forced to reckon with the terrifying truth. Caitlin Clark wasn't just the boost. They made her the foundation. And now that foundation just rolled her ankle. There are whispers about the bigger picture, but what bigger picture? The one without fans? The one where game highlights get fewer views than a cat video from 2012? No disrespect to the rest of the league, but the brutal reality is this. Without Clark, it's like trying to sell front row seats to a spelling bee held in an abandoned warehouse. People might wish it well, but they're not showing up.
In the case, the numbers tell a different story. The media can claim all they want. People are watching the WNBA to see AJ Wilson. They can claim that people are watching pretend basketball to see Angel Reese airball wide open shots. Check this one out. This is the first shot of the game, and Angel Reese hits nothing but air. This level of quality entertainment, it can only be found in the WNBA dump. Like I tell you guys all the time, no one cares about Angel Reese. They damn sure don't care about watching AJ Wilson.
And that's the part no one really wants to say out loud. That Clark isn't just a draw. She's the draw. She's the gravitational pull keeping the entire WNBA solar system from floating off into irrelevance. The numbers don't lie. The attendance charts don't lie. The cameras frantically panning to her on the bench while the game is still going on don't lie either. Even the other teams feel it. They're not just playing against the Fever, they're auditioning for Clark's co-star slot. You can see it in how they step up their game, tighten their defense, maybe throw a little extra flair on a fast break, all in the hope that maybe, just maybe, the highlight reel gods will clip it beside a Caitlyn turnover and give them a sliver of attention. But when she's sidelined, that energy evaporates. Everyone just starts going through the motions. It's like showing up to a Beyoncé concert and finding out it's just the backup dancers. Sure, they're talented, but nobody paid for that. And let's not forget the merch apocalypse. Sales dropped so fast, the printers probably asked if the system crashed. Fever jerseys that were flying off the shelves are now being folded politely, waiting for a miracle. The official league store might as well put up a sign, "Back in business when Clark is." All of this would almost be funny if it weren't so absurd. One player has become the single thread holding an entire league's momentum together, and everyone's walking around pretending this is normal? It's not normal, it's not sustainable, it's also not surprising.
Well, we all knew that with Caitlin Clark's injury, viewership was going to drop, but it was really just a question of how much. Nielsen came out with numbers today that on nationally televised games, viewership of Indiana Fever games has dropped 53%, and viewership on all nationally televised league games has dropped 55%.
Because the WNBA didn't just ride the Clark wave, they built a roller coaster on it. And now that the ride's stalled, everyone's just stuck at the top of the loop with no seatbelts and a whole lot of regret. Of course, the league will spin it. They'll talk about the journey and growing pains and how every team brings value. But deep down, they're refreshing injury reports like high schoolers checking exam results. Everyone's rooting for Caitlin's speedy recovery, not just because they care, but because they need her, desperately. Meanwhile, the fans are catching on. They're watching games like, "Who's this again?" and realizing that without Caitlin, the storyline gets pretty thin pretty fast. There's no villain, no hero, no spark, just a lot of pick and rolls and forced storylines about rivalries that don't exist. It's like trying to make fetch happen again, and we all know how that ends. The irony? Clark didn't ask for any of this. She just showed up and started hitting logo threes like it was a layup line. The league chose her, branded her, put her face on every billboard, clipped her into every promo, and then acted shocked when she became the sole reason people tuned in. Now they're scrambling for a plan B, but surprise, there is no plan B.
It's part of the reason why I believe Caitlin Clark is hurt and dealing with these injuries. They keep letting her get hacked, hit, basically UFC fought on a basketball court. And with all that being said, let's head on over to X to look and see what has come out. Now, man, just like I told y'all, bro, there has been a lot of stuff going on all season long dealing with these WNBA referees. And it's just unfortunate, man, that this is the case because now Caitlin Clark is dealing with yet another injury.
So here we are, one rolled ankle away from broadcast purgatory, with execs praying to the basketball gods for ligaments of steel. The WNBA wanted a star, and they got a supernova. But when you stare at the sun too long, everything else starts looking dim by comparison. The truth's right there, written in every empty seat and every muted highlight reel. No Caitlin, no crowd, no buzz, no pulse. And if that doesn't wake the league up, nothing will. And yet somehow, through all this chaos, the one person who should be losing sleep, the one who should be sending hourly fruit baskets to Caitlin's recovery room, is walking around like everything's fine. Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner, is out here smiling through the storm like the ship isn't actively sinking behind her. It's impressive, really. Illusional, but impressive. The numbers are crumbling like stale cookies, and she's still doubling down on whatever corporate hallucination she's got going on. Because, let's be real, Kathy doesn't get it. Or worse, maybe she does get it and still doesn't care. She's been treating Caitlin like just another name on a roster sheet, when in reality, Clark is the reason half the country can now correctly spell Aaliyah or Kelsey without Googling. The math isn't hard. Ratings up with Caitlin, good. Ratings crash without Caitlin, disaster.
Caitlin Clark is out, injured again. Unfortunate reality when you bring players back too fast. Other things can get injured. You can overcompensate. You have a quad injury in camp. You bring her back too soon. She gets a quad injury a few games in. You bring her back too soon again. You can clearly see there's something wrong with her on the court. She has no lift. She has no shot trajectory. She has no burst. She can't get by anybody. Even for her being a poor defender, she looked like a parked car on defense, worse than...
But Kathy's been too busy perfecting her blank stare at post-game interviews to notice the WNBA's golden goose is getting plucked repeatedly. And the refs? Oh, let's not pretend they're innocent bystanders in this mess. If anything, they've been complicit in turning Caitlyn's rookie season into an extreme sport. There's letting them play, and then there's allowing open season on a player's spine. Guess which one we've been watching? Every game, Caitlyn ends up on the floor like she's trying to start a new TikTok dance trend, while the referees just shrug like, wasn't me. Not a warning, just silence. Well, silence and some truly Olympic-level mental gymnastics from commentators trying to spin every body check as physical basketball. Kathy watched it all unfold and responded with the enthusiasm of a houseplant. No statement, no accountability, no league-wide memo saying, hey, maybe don't body slam our top talent. Just that same vacant corporate energy like she's reading from a PowerPoint designed by ChatGPT, and denial. It's baffling. Caitlin Clark is the literal reason this league is even in the conversation. She is the moment, the only headline that consistently cuts through, and Kathy's grand plan appears to be neglect, sabotage, spiritual indifference? Hard to tell.
Guys, today the WNBA without Caitlin Clark remains an attraction that not many people want to watch. Remains a product that the vast majority of sports fans don't care for at all. The Caitlin Clark games, 3.2 versus the Sky, 2.7 versus Liberty. The Caitlin Clark games still are performing at a nice rate, but everything else dropped right off.
Meanwhile, the numbers don't lie, and they certainly don't sugarcoat. Since Caitlyn's injury, viewership hasn't just dipped, it's been free-falling, like it was shoved off a cliff by bad officiating and executive apathy. Ratings have nosedived faster than an influencer's career after a bad tweet. And ticket sales? Let's just say the ticketing app barely needs to be refreshed. The same seats that were going for triple digits last week are now being given away with the purchase of a large soda. But sure, let's pretend none of that has to do with Caitlyn. Let's act like fans were there for the wholesome joy of watching zone defense executed at a medium pace. The league can keep pushing the we're more than one player fairy tale, but reality keeps throwing elbows, and unlike Caitlyn, reality never gets a whistle. Because here's the bitter pill. The fans know. They've seen the replays, the clips, the blatant non-calls. They've watched her get hip-checked into next week while the refs casually examine their shoelaces. They know that if Clark had been protected like the league's crown jewel instead of tossed into a demolition derby every night, she'd still be dazzling us on court, and the WNBA wouldn't be scrambling to duct tape its momentum back together.
Yeah, late last night. I think it's very much a day-to-day thing, how she responds to treatment. I stay in my lane and let our strength and conditioning and our physical, our AT staff do what they do best. But yeah, I found out late last night, and then we'll treat it day to day.
Back to back, a factor at all with that?
I mean, I don't know if it's a factor from a physical standpoint, from an athletic training standpoint. Certainly in my mind, it is. But at the same time, she's shown that she's tough and she's a quick healer. So.
And let's talk about appreciation, or the glaring lack thereof. Because when you're the engine driving an entire league's renaissance, you'd think the person in charge would at least pretend to value you. But Kathy treats Caitlyn like a mildly useful intern who once made a decent coffee run. No extra security, no formal apology for the non-calls, no public acknowledgement of her importance, aside from the occasional press release where her name is buried under 5 layers of blood. Meanwhile, the league's veterans are out here acting like Caitlyn's mere existence is a personal insult. And the fans know it. Every time she gets mistreated, ignored, or left unprotected, the fans respond with their eyes, their clicks, and their wallets. Because if the league won't protect her, why should fans protect the league? This isn't just about basketball. This is about loyalty, investment, and right now, the WNBA's return on Caitlin Clark is looking more like exploitation than appreciation. They don't even try to hide it. She gets pushed, shoved, dropped, and they act like it's part of the game. But the moment someone breathes too close to a veteran, suddenly it's a flagrant. The double standard is so glaring it practically glows in the dark. You'd think someone at the top would connect the dots, that maybe, just maybe, protecting your superstar might be good for business.
It was a couple of years, similar style to Caitlin Clark's play, and get her into the hump, over the hump of the trials and tribulations of being in a professional league. Caitlin Clark is out. I did that video earlier, of course. She is out tonight. We really don't know how long she's going to be out. There is a video that surfaced that some people are claiming that's where she got hurt. But I will contend, and I will die on this hill, that she has been hurt for as long as this three-point streak, the struggling streak. Look, guys.
That giving her a break from being body checked every third possession could actually help keep the league afloat. But no, Kathy's too busy, doing absolutely nothing, hoping the fans won't notice the steady unraveling of everything Caitlin built in just a few short months. And now, here we are. The league's on life support, the ratings are cratering, and all Kathy has to say is some vague CEO speak about growing the game. Growing the game? Caitlin grew the game. She turbocharged it, slapped it on ESPN, and brought in a wave of fans so fast the servers nearly crashed. All the league had to do was support her, not build statues, just basic protection, just a fair whistle now and then. Just act like she matters, but they couldn't even manage that. So while Caitlin rehabs, probably scrolling through tweets, wondering if it was worth it, the rest of us are stuck watching the air leak slowly out of the WNBA's golden balloon. It didn't have to be this way. She didn't have to be left unguarded, unappreciated, and untreated like a generational star. And yet here we are, the most valuable player in terms of attention, revenue, and cultural relevance, sitting on the sidelines, while Kathy Engelbert watches the fire burn and wonders why it's getting hot in here.